What's going on, guys, in the works, and welcome to another Battlefield 4 Showdown. And today we're going to be taking a look at the hand grenades, the V40 Mini, the RGO Impact, and the M67 Frag round. And this was suggested by a viewer last week, and I thought it was an awesome idea because we do have a lot of cool grenades at our disposal in Battlefield 4, something that's very different than the way it was in Battlefield 3. But last week we did the SG553 versus the ACWR, and unfortunately for you ACWR fans, the SG553 destroyed in the comments. It was the overwhelming favorite among the viewers of that episode. So if you want to be a part in this week's episode, be sure to leave your comment on the link I link at the top of the description. That's how I decide which one of the weapons that you guys like better. But like I said, we will be looking at the hand grenades, which I think is going to be really awesome because there are a lot of choices now. Now we're going to be focusing mainly on the V40 Mini and the Impact Grenade because we all know how the M67 works. Of course, there are flashbangs and there are incendiary grenades in the game now, but those behave a lot differently than the typical grenade, so we're going to focus on these two. But right off the bat, let's talk about one of the main differences between these three different types of grenades, and that's distance thrown. The Mini's biggest advantage, at least in my eyes, is how easily it is to throw. You can see that it can go a really long distance at a normal arc. That's just me facing the wall there forward. You can see that's quite a chuck. And the great thing about the Minis is you do get three because they are smaller. That means they have a smaller blast radius, but I've never really had a whole lot of problems killing people with them because, like I said, you get three, you can usually chuck two or three far enough that you can get the person that you're needing to get. And you can clearly see just from the blast radius you have on that, it still does enough that you're going to be able to take out targets. That's not really a problem. The RGO grenades, on the other hand, they are hard to throw. You can see I'm facing the same direction, and it takes much more arc in your throw to get it to go the distance you want it to go. Because they are a little bit fatter, they do take a lot more effort to kind of bounce around, and they do explode on impact. And that is something you have to consider when choosing one of these grenades because you can't bounce it around corners. But that is one of the advantages to it. Now let's look at the M67, which is your normal grenade. Kind of in the middle. It doesn't really throw a whole lot of distance, but it does have a bigger blast radius. You can see the blast radius on that was a little bit larger than that of the Impact Grenade and the Minis. So, in terms of pure distance, if you want to just chuck nades as far as humanly possible in this game, the Minis are the ones you're going to want to go for. But if you want something that has a more tactical approach, the RGO grenades offer a really cool advantage. Now, me personally, I like to bounce nades off things. That's something that I've got really good at from just playing Battlefield 3 and all the first-person shooters. I like to be able to kind of hit a grenade, have it bounce off the wall, and land where I want it to go. And I find that the RGO Impact grenades, you really can't do that with it because when it hits a wall, it blows up. Whereas with the Minis and the long distance, you can do a lot with them. I mean, look how far I'm just chucking those on the roofs right there, causing damage to them. You know, just the splash damage itself is enough so that I can finish them off with my weapon. So I find the Minis to be the most useful new grenade in the game. That being said, I find the RGOs are perfect for campers. And this clip right here is a perfect example of someone who got behind cover, and because I knew he was back there, I was able to basically smoke him out with the RGO grenade. Now, the blast radiuses on these things aren't that great. They are a little bit smaller than your typical M67 grenade. So if you want just pure blast radius, you know, you want to run up behind a whole bunch of people and chuck a grenade and hope it kills all of them, you're going to want to just stick to the default M67. If you want to get a camper that's behind the wall, you're going to want to go with the RGO Impact because you can basically throw it right at its feet. It's going to explode, and that blast radius is big enough on those things. That's not really going to be an issue. Whereas with the Mini, I find the Mini is great for hallways. Like when you're down in these tunnels, you can usually bank one or two around the corner, and if you don't get them with the first one, you can usually finish them off with the second one. So Minis are great for banking around corners. It's kind of like a little middle ground between the Impact Grenade and the Frag round. But the thing I like most about the Mini is the fact that you can carry three. That's a big advantage in my eyes because even if you don't kill them with the grenade, it'll scare them enough to get out from behind the cover to where you can finish them off with your main gun. Whereas with the Impact Grenade, you got to be a little bit more tactical about it because you've only got about 3/10 of a second after it hits something before it detonates. Granted, it does have a larger radius than the Minis, but it isn't as big as the M67. The M67 is the greatest blast radius, and you can only carry one M67. You can carry two of the RGO Impact grenades, and you can actually carry three of the Minis. So it kind of goes up in scaling. The more damage it actually does, the less of them you can have at your disposal. So a lot of things to consider in this week's Showdown. So be sure to go over to the Facebook link at the top of the description. Leave your vote for which one you think is the best grenade. Is it the M67, you know, the old standard? Is it the Minis, or is it the RGO Impact grenade? Leave your comment and I'll tally them up and I'll let you guys know what the results were in next week's Showdown. But if you missed it in past episodes, here's a chance to catch up. The first one was the SG553 versus the ACWR, which we talked about at the beginning of the video. And before that, I actually did a video talking about one of the new weapons in Battlefield 3 that they released, the MTAR-21. So if you missed that, there's a chance to catch up. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.